Hey friends, I'm Mel. Welcome to my kitchen. The #1 request that I get here from our community is for more Crockpot recipes. And honey, I love them too. So tonight I'm sharing a new chicken chili, a fresh spin on a warm and savory homestyle classic, an Olive Garden favorite, and a chuck roast that I turned into 3 different meals. And did I mention that they're all pretty much dump and go Crockpot recipes? So friends, get comfy and let's go. I'm so excited about this new Crockpot recipe. This one is French onion meatballs. You know, we love any dump and go recipe that has these frozen meatballs. They always turn out great. This is pretty much a dump and go recipe. One thing I do have to slice is an onion. I just like to rinse my onions. That's a little something my mom taught me. It kind of keeps them from stinging your eyes a little bit. And I'm just doing it in half and then like this. I like my onion pieces to be, like half moons. This is a lot like those Salisbury steak Crockpot meatballs. If you guys have not seen that recipe, I'll link the video down below for you. We went crazy over them, so I have a feeling we're going to love this one too. First things first, give it just a little light grease inside that crock. Now I'm adding my meatballs, and I've used a 26-ounce bag of the homestyle meatballs. That's what I prefer. I just don't really like the Italian-style frozen meatballs, and I don't think it'd be a good flavor with French onion either. But if you want to use them, go right ahead. Next, I'm putting in that one kind of small onion that I sliced up, and I did break my little onion pieces apart. Now I'm going to pour over 1 can of French onion soup. This is just the regular 10.5-ounce can of French onion soup. And I've got 1 envelope of the Lipton onion soup mix. This is the tri-powder mix. I think it comes like 2 of them in a box. Putting that on top. And I'm just going to kind of go in here and mix this around a little bit. It's okay if your meatballs are not completely covered. These went in frozen, remember? So they're going to release some water as they cook down. And I say cook down, they're fully cooked. All you got to do is get them thawed out and heated through. That's why these kind of recipes with meatballs, they're good for when you don't have, like all day to let something cook. Or if you've got one of those crock pots that will cook a couple of hours and then automatically switch over to keep warm. Those are perfect for these. But anyhow, this is what I've got going on here. I'm going to pop the lid on mine, and I'm going to cook it on high for about 3 to 4 hours. You can definitely cook this on low for about 4 to 6. Then we'll bring our cheese into the mix after that. When I make a dump and go crock pot meal, I'm in a hurry, so I'm doing instant mashed potatoes. I've got 1.5 cups of boiling water instead of the 2 that the package says. Then I'm adding in the 1/2 cup milk instead of water. I don't know if that makes sense. The package instructions say to boil 2 cups of water. I boil 1.5, then use a 1/2 cup of water. Then I just put in the little potato flakes and get them moistened. Then after they've set just a minute, I'm going to take my fork and fluff them up. Going to give them a little bit of salt, a little bit of black pepper, a little bit of butter. Even though they said they're buttery select, we're going to give them a little bit more. And then I'm going to just throw in a little spoonful of sour cream. I've used mayonnaise, I've used cream cheese. Just anything like that is going to give it just a little extra kind of twang. These are every bit as good as homemade in a fraction of the time when you're in a busy rush. Even if I'm not in a busy rush, I like instant mashed potatoes. I prefer mine a little lumpy like this too, whether they're homemade or instant. Another really quick side dish is just some of this steam in the bag broccoli. Just takes about 5 minutes in my little microwave. I'm going to throw a little tablespoon of butter in here and toss it around. That kind of negates the goodness factor maybe. Just a little stem. But I don't think that 1 little tablespoon of butter is going to hurt that much. What it does do is help the seasoning stick to this broccoli. And I like to use salt, pepper, onion powder, garlic powder, or if you've got a blend like this salt, pepper, garlic blend from Kinder's, it's perfect to use in a situation like that. Let's plate up dinner. These look perfect. I did cook mine for 3 hours and then I turned them down to low because I didn't want them to get too done. You can see the ones that were on the bottom at one point got a little brown. They're not overdone, but yeah, 3 hours on high. Then I've just let them sit on low for a couple of hours till we were ready to eat. If your gravy's not thick enough for your liking, you can just use a couple tablespoons of cornstarch, a couple tablespoons of water, and it will thicken it right up. But mine's just perfect. This is a really pretty plate, ain't it? I loved the Salisbury steak ones. Let's see what we think about French onion. Oh my gosh. These are so good, aren't they?
Yeah, they're good.
Oh, mercy. I love that. You just can't beat these frozen meatballs. The texture of them is perfect. They're like succulent and moist, and they have absorbed every bit of that Lipton onion and French onion soup flavor. Quick, easy. This is perfect. Just perfect. And guys, I forgot the cheese. It's just like me. I was getting ready to tell you how versatile these were, that you could serve them as an appetizer, do them over mashed potatoes like I did, over noodles or rice, or make you like a meatball sandwich with some cheese. We were going to put cheese on these anyway, whether we were making a sandwich or not. So yeah, a little step that I forgot to tell you is take you some Gruyere cheese. Let's go over here to the crock pot. I've already put my light up and everything, but we're just going to melt a little cheese over the top of these. These are really good. This thick cut shred from Kroger, I love that. So anyway, throw that in there too for you. Look outside, guys. It is cold and it's snowy here. So I decided it's a good day to make us a chili. We're going to make a creamy version. We're also going to make it with chicken. It's a crack chicken flavor. If you're not familiar with that, it's anything that mostly has chicken and the flavors of bacon and cheddar cheese and ranch. They've just started calling that crack for some reason. But anyway, let's put it in the crock pot so we'll have something good to eat tonight. The only little bit of prep work that I have is to chop up some bacon. This is a couple strips we had left over from this morning. This recipe calls for a cup of chopped cooked bacon. You could definitely use the little bacon pieces in the bag like you put on top of salads. I use those in recipes all the time. And I love to use this chicken bouillon powder that you can just store in the cabinet, or the bases that you store in the refrigerator. You just add these to hot water, stir them together, and you have chicken broth. This is a very space-saving and a cost-effective way to keep lots of broths on hand whenever you need them. Got the innards of my crock pot here, and I put 2 chicken breasts in here, boneless, skinless chicken breast. I'm going to add in 1 can of corn, whole kernel corn that I've drained. This is an 8.5 ounce can, but really you can use the full size can if you'd like. I've got a 15 ounce can of black beans that I've rinsed and drained, and a 1 can of like the Rotel diced tomatoes and green chilies, and you don't want to drain this. Now I'm going to add in 2 cups of chicken broth, that bacon that I chopped up just a minute ago. We're going to put in some ranch seasoning mix. I'm going to use 2 tablespoons. That is about what comes in one of the 1 ounce envelopes. Now we're going to use 1 teaspoon of ground cumin, 1 teaspoon of onion powder, and a big old tablespoon of chili powder. Felt like I was skimpy. I'm going to put a little bit more. I want to give this just a little bit of a stir here to kind of get my seasonings down inside of the liquid. And I'm using a 6-quart crock pot today, but I feel certain this would fit in a 4-quart just as easily. This is a real easy recipe to double if like you're going, to a football party or something. A football party, let's say. I'm old. Tailgating or, you know what I'm talking about, or potluck or something. You can definitely double this one real easy. I'm also going to go ahead and put in a block of cream cheese, and I did chunk mine up into little pieces. You can just plop it on there, but cream cheese takes a little bit to break down even in the crock pot, so I just like to help it along a little bit. Just going to set this baby down inside the cooker, pop the lid on it, and today I'm going to cook mine on low for about 6 to 8 hours. We're not ready to eat for a little while, but you could definitely cook it on high for probably 3 or 4 hours. It has only been about 4.5 hours, but my chicken is completely done, and I'm just going to take my little mixing chop and shred my chicken right down inside the crock pot. You can see I just push my little chicken breast right up against the side, and it just shreds so easily. If you wanted to, you can take it out and shred it or cut it into chunks, whatever you want to do. And you can see the cream cheese has melted down beautifully, and it's all incorporated in here. And I tell you what I'm not going to forget today, and it's the cheese. Sometimes I forget to stir in my cheese when I come back to a recipe. I'm using about a cup of shredded cheddar cheese. I'm going to put that in here, and I'm just going to kind of give it a little mixy mix here. I'm going to put the lid back on here, maybe 20 minutes on low, and that cheese, it's already melting. We can serve this if we want to, or we can let it sit here a few minutes. It just really don't matter, friends. It is good to go. Oh, she is looking and smelling delicious. I served mine with some Fritos. You could serve it with tortilla chips. I had planned on making cornbread, but honestly, this soup, the chicken just got done a little quicker than what I expected. Oh my gosh. I said soup. Honey, this is chili. This is delicious. It has the chili flavor that I love. It took me a long time to get on board with this chicken chili, the white chicken chilies, or any of the chicken chilies, because I never ate that kind of stuff growing up. We had regular chili. This right here, this is delicious. I love the chicken in it. You got your beans and your tomatoes, but it is totally chili flavored. And I do taste maybe a little bit of ranch, and the creaminess of the cream cheese is so good. You know what I'm not finding in here is the bacon. Maybe I didn't put enough, but I'm not really finding it, like seeing it or tasting it that much. So you could maybe skip that if you wanted to. This is delicious. And every one of these crock pot recipes in tonight's video, minus the French dip sandwiches, I didn't have a roast on hand. Everything else, I had everything I needed in my fridge, freezer, and pantry to make these up. Oh my gosh, this is perfect for a snowy day. I love it. Look at that cheese. That cheese is just falling. Ferris Bueller said that time moves pretty fast, and I have to agree. I have a cooking channel on YouTube, and my family's getting takeout pizza for dinner tonight, but that's okay. I've taken care of them. And taking care of our family is our top priority, and Fabric by Gerber Life can help. They offer flexible and affordable life insurance to fit your lifestyle and help protect your family's financial future. I picked up a policy on myself years ago when I quit working full-time outside the home. But now that Patrick's retired, his policy from work didn't follow him into retirement. Now, he's still a young 50-something retiree, but when you're looking to apply for term life insurance, there's a big difference between being 35 or 40 years old and being 50 or 55 and taking some medications. So don't wait like we did. Especially if you're young and in good health, you need to apply today to lock in a lower rate. And if you have kids, Fabric was designed for busy parents. It's more than affordable life insurance, like $1 million in coverage for less than $1 a day. Fabric can also help you with free digital wills. You have access to college saving funds and more. Fabric is your one-stop shop when it comes to planning for your family's financial future. And Fabric makes it so easy to apply right from your home. You could be covered in under 10 minutes without a health exam. Just apply online, view your quote, then customize your policy to fit your family's budgets and needs. There's no risk and you can cancel at any time. Fabric has 1,900 5-star reviews on Trustpilot with a rating of excellent, and they offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. So join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their family. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/momma. It puts my mind to rest knowing that if something were to happen to me, I've done all I can to help protect the financial future for my 2 young adult daughters. They have enough on their plates already. You can apply today at meetfabric.com/momma, MEET fabric.com/momma. I'll have everything in the description box for you. And thank you, Fabric, for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back to some Crockpot meals. We're going to make a really simple and really delicious French dip sandwich today, and we're starting in the Crockpot by putting our roast together with all these wonderful flavors. This is an almost 3-pound beef chuck roast, and I'm simply going to season each side of this with black pepper. Not using any salt because a lot of the soups and things that we're going to flavor this with are pretty salty. I like to sear my roast on each side. I feel like it really seals in the flavor before we start slow cooking. I'm using my crock pot that has this saute function, but you can do this on top of the stove, or you don't have to do it at all if you don't have time. But when I have time, I prefer to do this. Again, I'm gonna season each side with black pepper. In a separate bowl, since I already have my roast down in my crock pot, I'm gonna mix together 1 can of French onion soup. That's why I didn't even brown up any onions when I was browning my roast, because I knew I was gonna use this soup. A 10.5-ounce can of beef broth. A 10.5-ounce can of beef consommé. Now the difference between beef consommé and beef broth is simply this is like beef broth reduced down and thickened. It even has a little bit of gelatin in it. And this is pretty salty. That's why I didn't put any additional salt, but this gives a really deep flavor. And you can add about a 1/2 cup of red wine or even a 1/2 cup of beer if you have it. But I do not, so I'm using a 1/4 cup of red wine vinegar. Then I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of water. And let's just get all that kind of mixed together. Now, very carefully, I'm just going to pour this mixture right over top of my roast. There comes all those onions. We'll spread them out just a little. And that is all there is to this. Put the lid on. I'm going to slow cook it on low, and I'm going to start it at 6 hours. It could take up to 8. Or you could cook it on high for 4 to 6 hours. Now that my roast is nice and tender, it's actually just falling apart, but I am going to put it out on a separate plate. But do keep all of the juices down there in your crock pot. You want to use that for some au jus here in a minute. You can see it is just tender and falling apart. And this one didn't have a whole lot of fat on it, but I'm pretty persnickety. If I see some fat, I get all of it out of here because, you know, nobody likes to bite into that. I don't anyway. Really, there's just a little bit of fat on this one that runs kind of where, I don't know, the cut was or wherever, just a little bit. Like, it's even hard to just get it off here. And you can shred it just as fine and small as you want to, or you can leave it in bigger chunks. Whatever you like. And I'm going to have another plate. The meat inspector's here. Let's see how it tastes.
That's good.
Is it good?
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Yeah, very tender.
It should be. Crock-potting is the way to go with the chuck roast. Used to be a really cheap cut of meat, and this was the best way to cook it. They're not so cheap anymore, but I guess, for this much meat, it was a good bargain. It was on sale.
You can eat for a few days on that.
Oh, we're going to eat for a lot of days on that. We sure are. We're going to do a lot of different things with this. Stick around and I'll show you some of the other meals I make out of this. That's so good. I feel the spirit of some nachos and some Mexican-inspired taco dishes coming with this. Look at all that rich, juicy beef. I'm not even a crazy carnivore like Patrick is. He definitely loves his red meat. But I have to say, that looks pretty darn tootin' good to me tonight, too. And this is what actually started me down this rabbit hole of making these, was I ordered hot dog buns from the store. Oh, I guess it was back when we had all the bad weather. And this was what they gave me in my order. This was all they had, was these steak buns. So we did eat some chili buns on them. Patrick had a hot dog on it. But I was like, you know what we haven't had in a long time? And it sounded so good to me, was these French dip sandwiches. And these are the perfect kind of buns to put them on. So I've got my oven preheating to 400 degrees. You can put these under the broiler. With my weak mind, I don't always suggest that because they can get really crispy and really done too much rather quickly. So I've just got my oven on 400 and I'm going to get our meat on our bottom buns here. No need in being selfish. This big plate of meat I got. Then I have provolone cheese. You can use mozzarella, you can use Swiss, you could do a beef and cheddar, whatever you like. But I'm just kind of tearing it in half so it'll fit over my meat. Lay it on here. Why don't we just use 1.5 on each sandwich? Let's be decadent. And I'm going to put this in the oven just long enough for this cheese to melt and everything to get nice and bubbly. These really hit the spot for me and Patrick tonight. I must have just really been craving them deep down. But I also just needed an easy win. Do you ever just need an easy win in the kitchen? This is definitely that. Very little cooking and prep to it. Slow simmered in those juices all day. So flavorful, so warm and comforting, and so many things to do with the leftovers. And like I said, this hit the spot, plus it was an easy win for me. One of the things that I made with some of the leftover roast beef was a big omelet for Patrick. I've got a couple of tablespoons of avocado oil here in a small skillet. I put in just a little bit of diced onions and a little bit of some diced red pepper that I had in the freezer. And I'm just going to pull apart some of this beef. I've had it in the fridge, so it's kind of cold and I want to knock the chill off of it and just kind of get the juices flowing again in it with this avocado oil. This is kind of a take on a steak and eggs for breakfast, but I want to get the filling fixed up first. I'm also just going to put a little bit of black pepper and a little bit of salt in here. Get the veggies soft and the meat warm. Of course, you know that I'm using whatever I have on hand in my fridge or freezer to spice this up. You use whatever you have or whatever that you like. This is just for inspiration. You can also use some of the frozen hash browns, like the diced ones, and make a nice little hash or scramble out of this. I love doing that too. Now that I've got my filling warmed up, I'm just going to remove it over to a plate. I'm going to use this same skillet to make my omelet. I'm going to leave that little bit of oil that's left in there and add in a tablespoon of butter. I've got 2 eggs that I've scrambled up, and I have found that if you just use a little bit of water in your scrambled eggs, it really fluffs them up. It's just beginning to set up at the edges, so I'm going to put just a little sprinkle of some shredded cheddar cheese. Let's put our filling back in here. Spread it out just a bit. Now let's try to fold it over. I'm always scared when I have to do this for the camera. I never use a big enough skillet either. Get all the way under there and fold it over. You just don't want to go. Man, that's looking good. Let's give her a flip to the other side. Pretty. Plate her up right there on the same plate again. Touch more salt. A little bit of pepper. And I love what a little bit of chives does to onions. So I just always keep some little like freeze-dried ones. He's going to want to finish off that Bear and Burton's breakfast sauce. And let's see how his little omelet looks. It cut through all that meat. I think he's going to be a happy boy. I'm going to make a little sandwich for Patrick out of some of this leftover beef roast. And I put this in the microwave just to kind of get the chill knocked off of our leftover roast. Going in with some of this Blue Hog's Smoky Mountain barbecue sauce. Get it coated just a little bit, and I'm going to put it in the microwave for just another second because my barbecue sauce is cold too. I just want to knock the chill off of it a little bit. I've got my skillet on about medium, a little over medium heat, melting a little butter in here. And I'm just going to take each side of my bread and get the outside of it coated in this butter. Move that up the side now. I'm going to start with a piece of Gouda cheese. I think cheddar would be great on this, but I didn't have any cheddar. And I'm going to lay all the meat on here. It's going to be a nice hearty sandwich. Now, if you wanted to caramelize some onions, that to me would be delicious on here. Patrick's not a big fan of caramelized onions. You can put anything you want to in here. Something that's really fun to do with sandwiches is to put a little jam on them. I'm going to use some of this pineapple jalapeno. Have a little sampler thing of this. It's so little, as a matter of fact, my spoon won't fit in it. So I use the other end. We'll put just a little bit of this here on top. Little sweet, little smoky and spicy. He's going to love this. Since we're being decadent, let's put another piece of Gouda on here. And I'm just going to let this thing grill up. It's not the prettiest sandwich, but Patrick said it tastes delicious. You need 2 or 3 napkins for it, though, too. Today, we're going way back in the archives, and we're going to make a dump-and-go Crockpot Olive Garden chicken and pasta. I've really been craving this lately. This recipe gets its name because I like to use this Italian restaurant-style dressing. This is kind of the Aldi version of that creamy Olive Garden dressing. And I'm using the entire 16-ounce bottle. I'm going to put in just a little teaspoonful of some minced garlic. I'm going to give it just about a half a teaspoon of pepper. Do not use any additional salt, especially if you use the Olive Garden dressing. It's very salty. And under that same umbrella of saltiness, I'm putting in a can of cream of chicken soup, and it's also salty. But most people don't put this can of cream of chicken soup. I like the Olive Garden dressing, but it is pretty twangy. And I feel like the cream of chicken soup and this cream cheese we're going to put in here, I feel like it cuts through that twang quite a bit because it can be a little overpowering. So definitely put you in a can of cream of chicken soup. And if you're not a huge fan of the Olive Garden dressing, you can use any Italian dressing you want. It just wouldn't be Olive Garden chicken. I've also got some shredded Parmesan. I'm going to put in about a half a cup of that. And here is the cream cheese I discussed. That's the 8-ounce block. And I just like to go ahead and chunk it up into small cubes. And I'm just going to give this a little stir and kind of get everything mixed together. Some people like to wait until like the last 30 minutes of cooking time to put in their cream cheese. Now, if I was cooking this all day, yes, but mine's not going to have to cook that long. So I'm just going to go ahead and put it in now, and it'll have plenty of time to get kind of softened and melted down in there. Now I'm just taking 2 boneless and skinless chicken breasts, and I'm just going to nestle them right down in here and get them covered in this dressing. And I can just already taste this. I love this flavor. It's not something we eat super often. I don't know why, but I guess just because like it's one of those things when you just really are craving it, you want it. And I'm ready for it. It's been too long. Then all that's left to do is to pop the lid on my crock pot, and I'm going to cook mine on low. Probably be done in 3 hours, 4 hours tops. It's actually been more like 4 hours, but that's the awesome thing about crock pot meals. I've been busy today around the house, and this could just sit here. My chicken is completely done, so I just take my little mix and chop, and I'll just kind of shred all my chicken right down inside of this mixture and stir it all together right inside the crock pot. I'm going to go ahead and click it off over here to keep warm. And over on top of the stove, I'm going to boil up about 16 ounces of this little short, dry pasta. You can use any shape or kind that you'd like here. Just going to get that nice and boiled up. Drain it off. Not going to rinse it. You want it to stay nice and warm. Then we're just going to dump it right in our chicken cream cheese mixture right here in the crock pot and get it all stirred together. I love the way these kind of spirally noodles like hang on to that sauce and that chicken in there. Oh, it's so yummy. I like to melt a little mozzarella cheese on the top of mine and give it a little sprinkle of Italian seasoning. This is so easy, quick, hands-off cooking. This is also one of those recipes that, like when we rent a condo for a week at the beach on fall break, I'll always get stuff to make this when we're there because I can just set it and forget it. This one's a real big crowd pleaser too. I don't think I've ever met anybody who didn't like this Olive Garden chicken pasta, and you can feed an army with it. So budget friendly, so quick and easy, so creamy and delicious. If you want more quick and easy dinner ideas, be sure and check out this video right here next. And if you're interested in learning more about Fabric by Gerber Life, be sure and check the description box below. Thanks so much for being here, friends. I appreciate you. And as always, I send you love from my kitchen.